Hello and welcome to a new video. This is not a reaction video. This is a video that I'm going to explain what is the difference between the different oxidations. So we're going from 40 until I have, for example, 2.5. So I'm going to explain what is the difference and why you are needing it and how to use it. So this is really the main thing of this video. It will not be a long video, but I want you to understand what these volumes are, or percentages, because in different countries it's percentage and in some countries it's volume. So, and in many cases the percentage is along the side of the volume. So that's easy to understand. First of all, what is oxidation? Oxidation, for example, the 20 volt, it's Blonde Me, but there's different brands. This is not a brand that I'm working with, but I got this to test. So, but I'm staying with my Blonde Me. I have also Zero of Vitalities, that's without ammonia. I'm using Philip Martin's, that's also without ammonia. I'm using Nayo, all different kinds of coloring without ammonia. But what is oxidation? Oxidation is to be mixed with color. So you have a tube, it's different than a box dye. So you have a tube of color and that needs to be, let's say, mixed. This is the same brand. So the color needs to be mixed with the oxidation. It needs to be together. If you put this on your hair without the oxidation, it will not work. It has to be mixed before it works. If you only put that on your hair, you rinse it out, maybe it will absorb some pigments, but after one wash, it's gone. So it needs to be activated with the developer, with the oxidation. So in some boxes they say developer oxidation, you name it. You have two different kinds of developers of oxidation. So you have cream oxidation and liquid oxidation. But the liquid oxidation, you are never going to use that. It's not needed. You mainly need to use the cream oxidation. What is the difference between all these different oxidations? We have the 40, which clearly you'll never use at home. Never, never. I have one bottle. This is the bottle. I have one bottle in my salon. I really mean it. One bottle, just for, I don't know why my team is using that, but we have only one bottle. But at home, you will never need that. Let's start with the 10 volt. 10 volume is just to go darker or to have some kind of light cover of gray, but it will not be fully covered if you use 10 volume. It will be like for men. So if man wants to color their hair, but if a man colors their hair and it's completely covered, it's not so beautiful. It's best that it has some pepper and salt effect so that the gray is peeping through. So that's really natural. So it's less obvious that they color their hair, because everybody knows if you're 60 and you don't have any gray hair, everybody knows he's coloring his hair. And if you are using an ash color, your gray will not cover. So you need a warm color, and then you have like a golden, orange, brown, red, brown. That is not beautiful for a man. So I like warm colors, but not for a man. But each their taste. But normally 10 vol, you use that for toning. That's the maximum that you are going to use for toning. If it's possible, you go lower. So toning or deposit some color and going darker. So if somebody is, let's say, light brown and they want to go to dark brown, I'm going to use the 10 volt, because the volume, the different kinds of volume, 10, 20, 30, 40, is the strength of the volume, is the strength of the peroxide, and it's going to open the cuticle so the color can goes in. So if you are mixing the color with a developer, it's going to open the cuticle it's going in your hair, and then a conditioner or a mask is going to close the cuticle so it stays longer. If you don't use a conditioner after the coloring, your color will go out very easy. So if you use a high volume, these cuticles are going to spread wide open, and so it's more difficult to close them again. And if the cuticle is open, you don't have any shine. So if these layers are open, there's no reflection of the light, your hair cannot give shine. Otherwise, if you dim the light, you will light up. So that's not possible. So shine on your hair is a reflection of the light. So the wider your cuticle is open, the less reflection you're going to have of the light. It's going to absorb the light and you don't have any shine. So it's very important for the health of your hair that you use as low as possible of volume. But you need it so the oxidation can go in your hair. So let's say semi or demi-permanent color is using also a very low percentage of oxidation. So it will enter the hair, but not too deep. So if you use 10, that's going just between the layers, not completely in the hair. So 10 volume. The 20 vol is going to lift possible to 2 shades. So if you're going to use a mid brown and you want a light brown, you can use the light brown with the 20 vol. It's going to lift a little bit on natural hair. On colored hair, one color cannot lift another color. So it's not possible that it's colored dark brown. You are using light brown, that's 2 shades. You're going to use light brown with 20 vol. No. Your regrowth will be light brown, but the color on the length will not be light brown because a color cannot lift another color. You have to remove that pigment. But on a natural base, you can lift 2 shades. But now these days, not a lot of people has natural hair. But you never know. It's the first time you want to go a little bit lighter, then you can use the 20 vol. It's also going to cover the gray. So if you have really tough or a lot of gray, you need to use the color with 20 vol. If you have a lot of gray hair, take at least 1 shade darker with the 20 vol because your regrowth with the gray will be lighter than the lengths. And don't color the lengths anymore, but that's another video, otherwise it gets darker and darker and darker. But 20 vol is for covering gray hair, and on natural hair it can lift 2 shades. Then you have the 30 vol. That's the maximum we use on the lengths to really get that maximum bleach. You're never going to use a normal color, just a color, a brown, a red, a copper, you name it, with this 30 vol. Or it has to be a high lift color, but that's something different. I will explain later. A normal color will never be mixed with 30 vol. So 30 vol is for lifting. You have, of course, high lift colors. You have bleaches. Then you can use the 30 vol, but only on the lengths. Never use 30 vol on the scalp. It will damage your scalp. It will hurt. It's not needed to go with 30 vol on your scalp. But for the lengths, that's the maximum. Then we have the 40 vol. As I explained before, you're never going to need that if you do it at home. This is dangerous. As I said in the beginning, the strongness of the oxidation will spread widely open the cuticle. So the 40 will go really opening the cuticle so all the products can go in. And then a normal conditioner can never close the cuticle as the 40 vol spread it open. So if you use 40 vol, you can have gummy hair, you can have noodle hair, damaged, broken, you name it. And especially not on the scalp. You'll never going to use 40 vol on the scalp. But why is everybody using 40 vol instead of, for example, 20 vol? So everybody's saying that the 40 vol will go quicker than the 20 vol. And that's true. They are right. It goes quicker. So you're going to lift, so 40 vol is going to lift 5-6 shades as 20 vol less. This 40 vol will lift so quickly, like in 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you will have 5 or 6 shades. But it goes so fast that the yellow or orange pigments has not the time to melt. So if you're going to be like in 30 minutes, you're going to lift 5, 6 shades, but it will be very, very, very orange and damaged. If you use 20 vol, it will go slow. And slow is good. I explained it in some of my videos. Think about baking a steak and you put the fire on the highest level. The outside of your steak will be very much burned, even black after a few minutes. The inside will be raw because it's not had the time to develop inside. Yes, I know a lot of people want raw meat, but they don't want burnt on the outside. They want a nice brown color on the outside and raw on the inside. That's only possible on a low fire. So if you want to have a really good steak, you bake it or you barbecue it on a low fire, slowly. Slow is good. So nice and slow with 20 vol. How is that for a line? If you want to reach the maximum with not a lot of orange, use 20. It will do his job. Don't say I have just 1 hour, I have to go to work, I will use the 40. Never do that. It will go quickly, but it will be orange. Okay, I mentioned the high lift, so lift and color shades. So Majirel has that. It's the Magic Contrast, it's called. This is the new packaging. And this needs to be mixed with 30 or 40 volt. Why? Because it has to activate. Many people that are wanted to go to orange or red are bleaching their hair and then put some red on top of that and it will washes off. It's a faded color. Sometimes it's flashy, but after 2 washes, it's gone. So this is from L'Oreal, this is from Vitalities, this is magenta, this is red. So you have that in magenta, red, copper. That needs to be mixed with 30 or 40 volt. I will say use 30. Of course, if your hair is black and you use that red with 30, it will not affect that black. You will need to get rid of that black, but don't go to blonde. So remove that with 20 volt, again the 20 volt. Make sure that you have like a brownish red and then use this color on top of that. It will be very, very, very beautiful. But if you are going to use that with a 30 volt, just use the same color with a 20 or a 10 volt on the roots, otherwise you will have hot roots. If you like that, no problem for me. So that's the difference between all these shades in coloring. We have toning, and toning is different. If we are using toning, is 10 volt the absolute maximum. I know Color Charm, like T18, well, I'm saying it needs to be done with 20 volt, but that's coloring. I explained it. If you color your hair, you need to do it with 20 volt. But if you use the T18 with 20 volt, it will, you heard it, lift 2 shades. Okay, I hear you say, my hair is orange, so it will lift 2 shades. That's good. Yes, but if you apply it on already bleached scalp, you will scream. You will scream a lot. So your hair will be damaged more unnecessarily. So use the 20 volt for bleaching until you reached a pale yellow, and then use the toner with maximum 10 volt. If they don't have lower in the store, use the 10. But we have, like in Blonde Me, there's 7 volt. That's already better because this will still lift a little bit. And if you have highlights, so you take some streaks and you have natural hair between the lifted hair. If you use a 20 volt toner, your natural hair will lift 2 shades and that will be orange. That will be brassy. If you use 10, it will be less, but if you have fine hair, it's a very big difference between thick hair and fine hair in developing colors. If you have fine hair, your hair will be darker than if you have thick hair, because all these pigments are pressed together in this fine hair, so it will become darker. If you have thick hair, the pigments are spreaded and it will be lighter. So that's one thing. But if you use toner, that's also a very big thing. If you use 10 volume and you have fine hair, it will lift too your natural color. So if it's possible, 7 vol if you find it, because we are using toner with 2.5 vol. So Philip Mortens, it's an Italian brand that I worked for like 5-6 years. I don't have any advertising from them anymore. I just love their idea of coloring. So that is the difference between, like, for example, if we color with the 0, we have 18 vol. Because for coverage, perfect, but not yet the 20 volt, it will lift less. So you see, we can play. Big mistake, very big mistake. And I hear even hairdressers do that. They say, okay, if I don't have 20 volt, but I have 30 and I have 10, if I mix that, I will have 20. No, no, that's not possible. No, because it's the percentage. Like, for example, the 20 volt is 6%. I forgot to mention that. So 30 volt is 9% and 40 volt is 12%. So sometimes you hear percentage, and I think in England they use percentage. So sorry that I mentioned the volume. If you are using 10 and 30, you will not get 20 because the 30 is much stronger than the 10. So you receive like 24%, 24 volume. It will not be good. It will be more than 20. So you will not receive the result that you want. Of course, if you don't have it, yeah, and if you have to mix it, so consider it. If you need 20 ml, 20 gram, let's say 20 grams of 20 vol, not using 10 grams of 30 and 10 grams of 10, use, for example, 13 grams of 10 and 7 grams of 30. And then you will be closer to 20, but it's not exact measurements because it's very delicate. Also, very important with this oxidations. If you open the bottle and you used it, close the bottle very, very good, because this is a very delicate product, oxidation. And if you don't close it, it will be lost in the air. So it will break the oxidation, and your 20 or your 10 will not be 20 or 10 after 30 minutes. If you leave it open, it will go down very quickly. So it's a very delicate product. You need to close it immediately after mixing. Sometimes I see in the video, I see the bottle of oxidation open. If you do that multiple times, you don't have the strength that you need. And then you say, oh, the product is not good. Very, very, very important. I don't know if you have other questions, but this is what I think is the most important things about oxidation. You have 50, yes, I know you have 50 volt, but let's forget about that. I don't want to show it. I don't have it in the salon. I don't want it. I don't know why you're going to need it. But no, let's forget about that. That is not existing. All I'm going to say today, ciao, kus.